So proud of your belief, so proud of your effort. That was an unbelievable job. Hey, defense, fantastic job. Hey, our kicking all night long. Max pitting them back. Jay Billingsley making the field goal. I talked about your effort, talked about your fight, just your belief. There was times of the night that it could have went the other way. Nobody bowed their heads. Nobody started looking. We kept going forward. And that's what we're going to have. Here we go, boys. Stand up, play. Stand up, play. Stand up, play. The boys went down. The flames went high.
Well, it's been a couple long weeks since we'd heard that cheer. Hey there, friends. Welcome to Flame Central Game Day, brought to you by Divine Fog Realty. Love, family, and team. Thrilled you're with us here at the Bill. Reginald Walker Jr., DJ Jordan, Pat Kelly. Before we get into all the thick of things here, Pat, what team are we pulling for here now? I'm looking at the tie. Look at this right here. Like, you are, can you bring out the six guns? Like, you're a spitting image of New Mexico State right here. Exactly.
Listen, this has become an annual thing. You know, you play New Mexico State. Right. You got to look the part. You know, that's what we're rocking today.
Well, hey, looking like a twin. I absolutely love it. All right, hey, a lot of people wondering if the Flames have turned the corner on this season. You go to UTEP. Wasn't pretty, but a win is a win. And sometimes, just like a loss can kind of get you on a streak of bad performances, a win can do the opposite. Reggie, talk to me. Have the Flames found a spark at least?
I think so, and I think for me it's less about anything X and O and more about if you just watch this team throughout the game against UTEP, it was a body language thing. It was a confidence thing. It was a moving a different way type of thing for me that just felt very, very natural for this football team. And I thought that told me that they are feeling like this is the moment to go ahead and fully turn that corner. Conference play, starting to see some familiar opponents as well. I think they've turned the corner.
DJ, you were on the Double Coverage podcast recently. You took over for Pat. Who knows where he
tried. I was shaving this mustache, okay?
Not saying that you were critical of the Flames, but I think you were realistic when you were on the podcast. What were your thoughts from last week?
Well, my thoughts are you got to play every game like it's a one-game playoff, okay? I don't want to talk about conference championship. I don't want to talk about bowl. I don't want to talk about any of that. It's a one game today that you must win. And, yes, they looked much better, but if they were playing a better team, I'm not sure if they would have made it out.
Yeah, fair point.
I thought the team just had a different energy. You know, you looked at the defense. They were making plays in the backfield, tackles for loss, generating some sacks. And then you started to see some key players getting more touches. You know, you saw some of your receivers get 5 targets or running back get 5 touches. So I think you're starting to see some things from an offensive perspective as well that I know we'll talk about later. But I think you started to see a little bit of a different energy from the team.
Hard to believe it was just 2 years ago that these two teams met in the Conference USA Championship game. Diego Pavia was spraying it around. Flames were looking like men on a mission when it came to the ground and pound game. And you look at the series history between these two teams. Flames have won the last 3 in a row. Their last loss coming, as everybody knows, on the Hugh Freeze Day, in which everybody found out he was going to Auburn. But kind of leading back to that Conference USA Championship game, that feels like a lifetime ago. Is this the new world of the transfer portal where in some ways you get punished for winning because everybody wants your players?
I think absolutely. You know, you mentioned other players, Diego Pavia, now quarterback for Vanderbilt, Star Thomas, now the starting running back for Tennessee. Meanwhile, you know, Liberty had exits from Caden Salter, who's at Colorado, CJ Daniels, who was at LSU and now at Miami. So, yeah, I do think, you know, you have some success and guys are going to get poached.
Yeah, that's right. And Diego Pavia is playing his 8th year, I think it is, something like that. But yeah, this is what it is. Yeah. And this is also why it's so important to really end the season strong. Even if you don't necessarily going to go to a bowl, you got to retain the players that you have right now and show that there's some energy and excitement towards a winning program.
The added piece of that player retention, which, by the way, I feel like Diego Pavia definitely has his AARP card, but we'll talk about that later. The other thing is, look at the coaching situations in this league as well. All of us, 2 years ago, Sam Houston State comes here as a winless football team. Last year, they have a great year. Casey Keeler's now at Temple. You look at Jacksonville State, Rich Rodriguez back at West Virginia. That impacts player movement as well when those coaches leave. So I think that's part of the equation, the player movement, but also coaching success leads to coaching movement, which trickles down to player movement.
Well, let's go back to last week for the Aggies. Tony Sanchez and the Aggies taking on Sam Houston State and the Bearcats, and they would even up their conference record at 1-1. And this was a game where Fife came out, threw a nice ball there. It felt like their offense was starting to click. You get a touchdown here on the touch push and move on.
Yeah, you really did. And the thing about this game is it was 13-10 going into the fourth quarter, and then they rattled off 24 points. They had their own Flames quarter. I think they did a really solid job closing that one out. Things started to click for Fife. His fourth game in a row going for over 250 passing yards. So they're starting to figure some stuff out.
We're going to talk about this more later on, but the type of offense that they have, they can be a quick strike offense to be able to score at any time. And so a lead is not comfortable. That's one thing I think Liberty should be thinking about today. You got a lot of quick passes, almost like the Kurt Warner, with the Rams years ago. Greatest show on turf, a lot of that.
Flames last week at UTEP. This one wasn't pretty, but Liberty gets it done. And Vasco, first play of the game, nice ball to Juju Gray.
Yeah, I love some of the play calling that they're starting to incorporate here, and really some things started to click for the offense. We mentioned earlier getting some of your key guys a lot more touches. Would love to see it here again tonight, but yeah, really good to kind of get off the schneid and start to get back in the win column.
And this is a UTEP group that has a solid secondary, which helps their front seven. The big thing about watching that football game and then going back and studying the tape, they looked confused in terms of where Liberty was going to attack them. I think that's a key. Anytime you're using a lot of different weapons, that becomes a factor.
What do you think Malachi Nelson is thinking right now?
Listen,
I'm just throwing it out
whether
there.
it's Malachi Nelson, there's a few guys in that sort of boat that we could talk about.
Yeah.
One of them's out at Sacramento State right now, Jaden Rashada. We've seen this with some of these quote-unquote five-star quarterbacks. My concern, Red, is some of these guys are getting tapped on the head as these high-rated recruits based on 7-on-7s.
Take a look here at the Conference USA standings. Liberty currently 1-1, a bit of a logjam there. It feels like just yesterday, Liberty lost to Jacksonville State, and everybody said, season's over. And now, all of a sudden, you're sitting in a situation where seeing Liberty make the Conference USA Championship game is still a very real possibility.
Yeah, I agree, and I think any of the teams could beat any of the teams, believe it or not. I think you have a lot of parity. If you actually watch the games, you'll see that they're very competitive, even against teams like UTEP and Sam Houston or whatnot. So Liberty needs to continue to worry about each game by game to get to where they want to, which is to the championship.
Is there a dark horse in that group or a team that could play spoiler that you'd like to look at?
Well, I know Pat talked about Delaware, who's got to come here in a couple of weeks. I think that's one of them. But I want to talk about Kennesaw State for a second, because what Jerry Mack has down there at Kennesaw State had a chance to, the Owls are loose, right? And they get it. And what I like is their ability on defense to be physical and beat you up. They can physically beat you up. And then offensively, they can play with up-tempo, or they can play down-tempo, run the football, be physical. Jerry Mack has been at Tennessee. He was an offensive coordinator at Rice as well, and some time with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he knows how to scheme up a football team. Keep an eye on the Owls.
Yeah, Owls will be here on November 29th. That'll be a fun one to watch, because sure, Liberty wants payback from what happened a year ago. The Owls will be in contention of some serious hardware if they can keep moving on. All right, time now for our Chris Whitelaw scouting report, and we'll be talking about the Montana transfer in Logan Fife.
Yeah, talk a little bit about him. First of all, great mustache, like myself. Mentioned this earlier, but things are starting to click for this offense. Last week, he completed 73% of his passes in the game, threw for 255 yards. I think he's starting to command this, get the ball to some playmakers. He could be a problem for Liberty, even though they've got a pretty decent secondary tonight.
I watched the game where they played against Tulsa, and he picked them apart. He really did a great job against that defense. By the way, Tulsa went on to beat Oklahoma State a few weeks later. Last week, he has a completion percentage of 57% for the year, which is not bad. So he's a good player.
How much does a team love a guy like Fife that can take a hit, does not seem to complain, and just gets right back up there and throws the next ball?
Don't ask me, because I hated getting hit, and I always whined about it.
No, but from a team perspective,
I think it ignites an offense. It really does. When you see your quarterback standing there and absolutely get his head taken off, but he throws and makes a big completion on a third down or a big touchdown to get you back in a football game, that ignites not just the offense on the field, but the entire sideline.
Yeah, most players and athletes, if you get hit, that's an adrenaline shot. You get up, you're ready to go. I know wide receivers are not that way, but most football players are like that.
All right, Ethan Vasco for the Flames, a sight for sore eyes, back under center a week ago against UTEP. And Vasco, in some ways, I would say this, you don't realize how much you miss him until he was gone.
Yeah, I think he runs this offense well. He does what you need him to do. He's not going to be, he's not your pure passer. He's not going to absolutely pick you apart in the quick game. He needs to continue to work on some of those intermediate throws, but he runs your offense well. In that RPO game, he gives it when he needs to. He keeps it. He's a tough runner as well. You know, you just mentioned Fife kind of being able to put your head down. Vasco does the same thing. He did several times against JMU, tucked his head, ran, got the hard yardage. And that gets your offensive line fired up, gets those running backs fired up.
What I liked most about what he did last week, he had 11 different receivers that he threw the ball to, which was a really good thing for him to spread it around. He knows the offense better than all the other quarterbacks who are on the team right now, which is exactly what they need.
Reggie, was this the best he threw the ball in a Flames uniform?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it was less about some of the throws he made, but more about the way he was seeing the field, some of the anticipation, because as PK mentioned a few minutes ago, he's not always this like throwing darts in certain situations in quick game, but his ability and his understanding of the offense, and I think his comfortability last week, you saw him anticipate some throws and time those up a lot better. I thought that was a big key for this offense.
Yeah, it sure did look a lot better a week ago than they had here at home throughout the season. All right, let's go inside the numbers, brought to us by Courtyard. This is a Liberty defense that was highly praised coming into the year. It took a little while to get going, but over their last 2 games, they've created 6 turnovers.
Yeah, and they've really needed it. You know, I think you started to see some of that penetration into the backfield last week. 8 tackles for loss. They got 3 sacks. Really started to energize that defense. It's amazing what you can do when you're playing ahead on schedule. You know, it's 2nd and 12, 3rd and 12. That really energizes your team, lets you get a pass rush, and lets those secondary players really execute.
I really like Joe Carter, the defensive line, and the way that they've been putting pressure on the quarterback. Against ODU, you had those big, huge fumble recoveries when ODU got into the red zone, which is good. It shows you that they are still playing very, very hard for this coaching staff. Nobody's quitting.
And the other piece of it, when you're playing, when you get offenses behind the chains, like you mentioned, Pat, now you can play some zone and go attack the football. And that's when you see interceptions. Anybody will tell you interceptions come playing zone more times than not.
What has changed for this group? Is it systematic? Is it just players now are getting more comfortable in their system and making plays? Because it does look, or is it just confidence? Like, that can do a lot for you.
I think confidence certainly plays a part, but I also think that, you know, you've made mistakes in your previous 4 or 5 games. You're able to coach that out. You know, you can take that into your bye week, or you can take that when you've just had a game, and you're able to say, hey, here's where we're not executing. Here's where we're dipping and rushing, and we're opening up running lanes. So I think part of this should go to the coaching. You know, they've had some struggles in the coaching realm a little bit. So I would say you need to tip your hat when they do some good things as well.
Sometimes you see a team, too, kind of come together when a big piece is out. Brylan Green obviously sustained an injury at ODU, has not been in the lineup. I doubt he'll be seen today. You know, talk to me about that aspect. You guys have obviously played in. When you see one of your stars go down, you know it's a team mentality, getting everybody, you know, back together and headed in the right direction. Here, we'll touch on that more in just a second. I'm sorry, I know I asked a question and cut you off. But joining us now here, part of our Ortho Virginia Field Pass, is Vaughn Blue. Vaughn, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
No problem. Thank you all for having me.
Hey, talk to me about last week. How big was that for you personally? You come in and, you know, I know a lot of people bring up the injury past that you've had, but you come out and you have your best game of the season. How big is that for you moving forward?
It's huge, man. I've been waiting for the opportunity to be able to catch a rhythm, and I was very excited, very happy that I got the chance to do that, especially my A-line helped me out all the way, and the rest of my teammates supported me the entire time. I'm very excited to play this game and show y'all what we got.
Hey, Vaughn, Pat Kelly here. You know, a career high last week, 18 touches going into that game. Did you know that you were going to tote the rock that many times? And how does that help you moving forward into the game this week?
I had an idea. I didn't know it was going to be that much, but I'm blessed that Coach Isaac gave me the opportunity to do so.
DJ Jordan here, fellow running back from way back in the day, much older than you. But Vaughn, you've been playing really well. I'm curious the type of run plays that you prefer, because you've seen a lot of different offensive formations and types of runs. Depending on the defense that you're playing, the coaches have really switched it up. What do you think is your most successful types of runs?
I'm a huge fan of the inside and outside zone play. Anything of that nature that I can kind of read multiple zone and make it cut and go.
And Von Reginald Walker here, former defensive back. So we're going to go to the other side of the ball. But for you, when you see those opportunities, when you get to the second and third level, what's your mentality with those defensive backs? The smaller ones, are you looking to run them over and then the bigger guys run away from them? What's your kind of your mentality when you see those guys approaching?
I try to treat everybody the same. Just make a quick decision, quick reaction, and try to make the best move possible to go and score.
Well,
I
good
don't really
stuff.
treat them differently per size or anything like that.
Awesome. Well, Vaughn, thanks for the time today. Best of luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That was Vaughn Blue, running back for the Flames, and had a breakout game last week. On the other side, Ezra Christensen, athletic big man that can get into the backfield in a hurry.
Yeah, leading the team in sacks. You know, this is definitely a guy that Liberty's going to have to be on the lookout for tonight. You know, the offensive line's starting to gel a little bit, but this is a guy that can definitely be a game wrecker, especially with the Liberty offense that prefers to run the ball.
Yeah, not only that, but he's got an ability to get up the field and penetrate and create a lot of havoc. Remember, this kid is from Sierra Leone. He grew up in Sierra Leone, then came to Southern California to play his high school football. Great feet, grew up playing soccer. So his ability to change directions and move and chase plays down, something to keep an eye on as well. I like him as a playmaker, though.
All right, as we continue moving on here, Tony Sanchez obviously hoping that Christensen can continue his dominant ways at the line of scrimmage. Here's what Coach Sanchez had to say to Matt Warner.
Well, Coach, Liberty has the worst rush defense in the conference this year. I know running the ball hasn't necessarily been a strength for you guys this season. How important is it to establish some kind of ground game here tonight, though?
That's greatly important. It was a big difference in the game. You know, the last time we played Sam Houston, it got better against New Mexico. But we're not fooled. We know Liberty's a well-coached football team, and they've got some good players. They played some really good teams, and you know, we all got to kind of come to balance. You know, and I'm sure they'll be out here, you know, ready to be stout. But we need to run the football if we're going to win the game.
Looking for that first road win of the season. Sometimes the first one's the hardest to get. What are the keys in your mind to coming away with one here tonight?
Well, I think both of us have struggled with scoring touchdowns in the red zone. So it's one of those deals we have to continue to make them struggle there, and we got to put the ball in the end zone during the red zone. You know, we're +3 in the turnover battle. Anytime you do that, you have a chance to win games. We want to stay on top of that tonight and then just be fundamentally sound.
Appreciate it, Coach. Best of luck.
Appreciate it. Go Aggies. Thanks.
There's Coach Sanchez, and obviously getting a win here on the road, first one of the season. The air attack for the Aggies is going to be a big part of that. You see Fopel, Harris, and Johnson the third. These are the three leading guys in terms of yards on this season.
Yeah, and they're certainly going to have a tough test with this Liberty defense being 12th in the country in passing yards allowed per game. But, you know, he mentioned it. The run game is going to set up some one-on-one opportunities on the outside. So if New Mexico State's able to run the ball, these guys are going to have their shots downfield.
I really like the route running that these guys run, especially Feupel. He's very, very talented. They're all really smart players. As a former offensive player, I really appreciate players who are smart. And you're going to see some of the plays here where they're always open, it seems like. So Liberty's going to have to play really, really hard to put pressure on Pike.
My X factor here, I'm going to jump in front of you.
Yep.
It might be that guy right there on screen. Gavin Harris, 16 receptions, 11th nationally in yards per game for tight ends. And it feels like historically athletic tight ends seem to do some damage against LU.
Yeah, I mean, if you look in the NFL right now, every game-breaking team has an elite tight end. I didn't mean to jump in front of you there, but I mean, you've got to have a tight end to be able to do some elite things. When Liberty was their best in 2023, had great tight end production.
Well, and you talk to anybody that remembers him earlier in his career at Howard. That's where he started his career. He was a super athlete kind of a guy, more of a receiving tight end. He's kind of made his body as his career has gone on now at New Mexico State. So he's a little bit bigger now, kind of filled out into the position, but he's a very athletic kid, and you can see that on tape.
All right, Reggie, big name, little in stature. TK King, he was not on that list coming back off of injury. Tell me about him.
He's a freak. Like, that's the, like, here's the thing, and this is what, and PK, you'll understand this when I say this. Guys that scare me are guys that if they do miss time, it's a hamstring or a groin, because they're probably really, really fast, and they can shift gears and go, and that's what TK King can do. Shift gears and go. We saw him last week make his season debut, 6 catches, 132 yards. The explosivity that he brings to this offense, and this is an offense that already, well, going into last week, had 16 completions of over 25 yards. You add this guy to this offense, it creates that explosive ability for this offense. Hopefully, if you're New Mexico State, it opens up something in the running game. The biggest thing for New Mexico State on offense, they got to do a better job on first down, averaging less than 2 yards a carry running the football on first down. That's how you get behind the chains. That's how you get your offense in trouble.
Yeah, Reggie, I completely agree with what you're saying, and I think it speaks volumes for the fact that it was TK King's first game back, and they basically force-fed him the ball. They weren't trying to ease his workload. They were like, oh, we've missed you badly. We're going to feed you the rock.
Absolutely.
So those are the guys you're terrified
It'll
for.
be curious to see what type of defense they're going to play because there's so many guys you could try to key on with his own that's very difficult to do.
Yeah. Defense will be key, and that will be Jamie Chadwell's job. He is standing by with Matt Warner.
Well, Coach, last week at UTEP, your defense gets 3 sacks, almost double your sack total on the year. Are you seeing growth in that area? How critical is it to get after the quarterback here tonight?
Yeah, I think it is critical. They're going to throw the ball quite a bit, and we got to affect him. I thought our defense is playing with more confidence. We were able to get some pressure on him without bringing some blitz, which is always positive. That's an area that obviously has been a concern, but also something that we've worked hard on trying to fix or improve, and I think our guys have done that. And so hopefully tonight you'll see us. I think it's more than just sacks. It's pressuring him. Whether we get sacks or not, can we get him off of his platform and make him not throw on time? If you can do that, then you've affected him, and then you're winning.
You guys had success between the 20s a week ago. What's the key in the red zone here tonight?
It comes down to execution. Once you get in the red zone, you know the field shortens, and so you got to be really detailed in your execution. And we had some good plays that we just didn't execute to the level that we are. And you're good enough to get down there. We got to be good enough to finish and score. And so we put some extra time into that in a short week. But we tried to, hey, what can we do better down there? What do we need to do to improve to get touchdowns? We emphasize it all week. So hopefully we'll be good enough to get down there and be good enough to get touchdowns.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck tonight.
Thank y'all. Hi, Emily.
Pulling back the reins on you, Pat. I know you want to talk about red zone offense, but let's talk about Liberty Flames D-line here a little bit first. This is a group that has definitely improved in the last game. In a lot of ways, you need it to. Like, in order to win, get pressure on the quarterback. If you don't get pressure on Fife, he's going to pick you apart. They have weapons to be able to do so. How big is that result for Liberty that they're starting to finally get pressure on the pocket?
Well, it's huge because, as much as we talk on offense about trying to stay ahead of the chains so that you've got 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4, on the flip side, when you're a defense, you want to force them into those longer situations, 2nd and 10, 3rd and 12, things like that, because that does allow your guys to kind of come after the pass rush. And Liberty's deep on the defensive line. So I think what you saw last week is they're starting to get push, and they're able to cycle guys in and keep them fresh for the whole game.
Yeah, Aaron Hester is a really good defensive player on the line. I think you're probably going to see him with a lot of sacks, but you're right. Being able to cycle in players so that to keep them fresh because they're going to be running after this guy all night.
Look, at the end of the day, for me, the reason why the defensive lines are so important in any football game, if you win first down, you make offenses predictable. That's always the motto for a defense. We want to make it obvious that you got to throw the ball to a guy like Pat Kelly or get it to DJ out of the backfield and not be able to make us try to figure out what's coming. So we want you behind the chains, have to win first downs. This defensive line it's going to be imperative they do that tonight.
All right, turning a corner now to our Nissan matchup spotlight. And Pat Kelly, I know how much you love kickers. We've talked about them so many times over the years here at LU. It has been a tenuous situation, but give credit to that young man. Billingsley coming through, having a really good game for LU. Now, before we break him down, on the other side of things, Mr. Hawk, Ryan Hawk, this guy is money in the bank as well for the Aggies. He seems like if you're inside the 40, he's going to get it done for you.
Yeah, related to Tony Hawk. Don't check that because that's not true at all. But it's amazing what a reliable kicker can do for you when you know that you've got an automatic 3 points on the board where you don't have to drive the full length of the field and you know you're going to come away with some points. So I do think kicking tonight is going to play a big part in this game and hopefully in Liberty's favor.
DJ, this feels like a game where it could come down to, he's dropping the old 6-7 right there. Oh, boy. Yeah.
The young guys don't know what that is. They don't have any teenagers.
That's right. That's exactly the point. Yeah, there we go. Dad life right there.
Yeah,
DJ.
that's for my daughter right there, Tori.
There we go. But this is a game that could come down to a field goal kick.
That's right. Yeah, it could come down to a field goal kick. And, Pat looks like the kicker on this table right now. The skinny guy, the soft guy. But, when you need him, you need him. And I was at the Commanders-Bears football game last night, and the Bears won by a last-second field goal. You could see something like that. No double doinks. You could see that today.
When you look at the numbers overall, Billingsley a little inconsistent to start. Obviously went 4-5 last week. The numbers looking better. Hawk on the other side. Again, like I mentioned, 4-5 between 40 and 49. 0 of 2, 50 and beyond. But any day of the week, a coach is going to take those kind of numbers on the right if you're inside the 40-yard line.
Well, that's the point, right? You want to get to a point where there's always an opportunity to get points. I've seen Jay Billingsley from the beginning of his career, back when he was at Gardner-Webb. I was doing radio for Gardner-Webb at the time. And this is a young man who really, really struggled just to figure out his full process of being a kicker to now watching him grow up. And oh, by the way, I'm big on Billingsley. I call it, it's the all-suffix team for me. I'm a junior. He's I believe the 5th. So I'm all about the suffix guys. He's all suffix team. I like kickers.
Well, it has been interesting to see kickers and their range actually get longer and longer over the last decade. I don't know what it is, but kickers are regularly trying 50-yard kicks. In my day, they did not.
Do you nothing to say about the kickers?
No, I mean, I played with a great kicker in Matt Bevins, who just came back to campus
That's
here.
right.
He was Old Faithful. He was super reliable. But yeah, I mean, like we kind of harped on, I do think this game can come down to a kick, especially if these defenses are as stout in the red zone as we think they are.
I'm glad to see you didn't throw a pen or break a pen just by me mentioning kicker. It has happened in the past. All right, hey, friends, make sure you stay with us. More to come here on Flame Central Game Day. We'll talk to Matt Warner and Andy Corey in just a few moments and continue to break down the Flames play calling.
Become a visionary from day one. All champions are visionaries. God wants to burn a vision into your heart. You're not called to fill up space. You're not just an occupant. You're not just a spectator. You're supposed to be a participant in God's primary goal. And so that's our mission. God has called you to achieve, to win. You have no right to be ordinary. God has called you to be extraordinary.
Just over 30 minutes until kickoff between the Aggies and the Flames. Glad you're joining us here on Flame Central Game Day. Play calling has been a hot topic for the Liberty Flames ever since week one. Pat Kelly, you were pleased at least with their play at UTEP and the calls that went on.
I really was. Starting from the very beginning of the game, you saw utilizing motion to basically let the offense know, are they in man, are they in zone, and then it's also to create mismatches. You want to get your best guys against who you don't think is very good, and I thought they did a really good job of getting receivers on safeties, running backs on linebackers. They did a very good job of scheming guys open, and you saw chunk plays because of it. I absolutely loved how they drew up that game plan, and you saw the result on the field.
Yeah, I like the use of the running backs. Evan Dickens, I've always been a big fan of his. He's very, very talented, and they're using him more intentionally now, which is great. I would say for New Mexico State, they've got to do the same thing. They've got a horse on their side with Callaway as a running back, 6 foot. He can do a lot of things for you, but you got to scheme towards him. You got to be aggressive with that.
Look, at the end of the day, play calling, the key to it, right, you can't fall in love with something that is not working. What you have to do is fall in love with effectiveness. And sometimes play calling is just as simple as what's working for us right now, ride that out. And then the other piece of it, though, to me, when you talk about it from Liberty's standpoint, what they cannot forget is how many weapons they have. Use all of them. Make defenses try to figure out where you're going with the football. Take what they give you, read it properly, execute it properly, and you'll get big plays.
All right, I don't want to be like the bad guy here, but there's one aspect I don't like, and that's I feel like you have stars in the lineup that you want to get the ball to more. Like Juju Gray, I love the fact that you got it to him early and you ended up with a touchdown. But then it almost seems like to me they're like, okay, we can't get it to him anymore because they figured out that's what we want to do. Like, get the star the ball and let him go to work in open field.
I agree with that, and I think where this team is different than in years past is you had a Caden Salter and a Quentin Cooley, and you would feed them the rock 30 times in a game. This team is different. They're put together differently. I think they have a different identity, so you do need to feed different guys. Get other guys involved in the game plan because you do have an embarrassment of riches on the edge. You've got backs that you can utilize. It's about getting them the ball. So I think where it's different this year is that you don't have that bell cow, and that's okay.
I kind of feel like they're still trying to figure out their identity, and I was just going to say that. And in years past, not even before the last offense, over the last couple of years, you've always had a couple of players who were the go-to guys that you can count on for this Liberty offense. You don't have that right now.
Well, and I think what that does is it opens it up for the other guys, right? If you know that they're trying to get the ball to certain people, all of a sudden a safety's going to cheat, be out of position. Boom, you hit a guy on the backside for a big post or something for a big touchdown, and then they go, wait, we can't start leaning coverage to Pat Kelly because they're going to go to the other side and hurt us, and then Pat Kelly starts making plays again. So that's how you have to attack these teams. You have to make them guess and then make them pay when they guess.
Well, play calling will be key. A step in the right direction at UTEP. They're going to need a step in the right direction in the red zone. With more on that, we head down to Matt Warner.
Yeah, guys, you know, when you think about what usually goes into who wins a football game, it's usually the age-old staples, right? Win the turnover battle, limit penalties, and while those are all true, tonight's game pretty much boils down to this. Who can find success in the red zone? Liberty fans well aware of their struggle putting the ball into the end zone in last week's win over UTEP. While the Flames didn't necessarily always reach the red zone, they did have to settle for 5 field goal attempts in the game, making 4 of them. But what you may or may not realize is that on the year, Liberty's been one of the worst teams in the country at scoring touchdowns once they're in the red zone. They have just 7 red zone TDs on the season. That's 122nd in the nation. Oh, by the way, one of the only teams worse than Liberty, New Mexico State, with 6 red zone TDs. But strangely enough, while both of these teams have struggled to score in the red zone, you flip it to the other side of the ball, that's also where they play their best defense. The Aggies, 8th in the nation in red zone D, giving up points on just 69% of opponents' opportunities, while the Flames are tied for 9th, allowing scores on just 70% of those trips. So guys, if those numbers hold up, we may see an electric field goal kicking competition tonight. I'm sure that's what everyone wants to see. But in all seriousness, tonight, what happens inside the red zone will probably determine the outcome of this ball game. And with more on this matchup, we now send it across the way over to Annie.
Yeah, Matt, exactly what you said. The red zone troubles for both of these offensives have been staggering. I mean, Liberty right now number 11 in Conference USA in red zone touchdowns, and New Mexico State number 12 out of the 12 teams. And Flames head coach Jamie Chadwell, you heard him earlier, he is not shying away from Liberty's struggles in that department, saying this week that it's not a play calling problem, but an execution one. He said he's confident that the plays they've designed can be successful, but this team is misstepping a lot in the blocking department, missing basic assignments that prevent them from opening up critical elements of the offense. So tonight he's looking for everyone to do the simple things right, which should allow for more productivity overall. Finishing on offensive possessions, it has been a major element of practices this week. And Rhett, it makes sense because if you look at that UTEP game, if some of those field goals end up as touchdowns, then you would have had a completely different final score for that game.
Yeah, it would have looked drastically different. You're right, Annie. And let me go to that. What do you think first of Coach Chadwell's comment? Is it execution over play calling? And then 2, if you could rectify that throughout this year, you could have some drastically different looking games already in this season.
Yeah, I think a couple things. It can partially be execution, and by that I mean you've had some untimely penalties once you get into the red zone, which backs you up when you've got 1st and 20. That's not ideal at all. But what we just talked about, you know, historically you've had a guy or the guy to get the rock to. I'm hearing a little bit of that as well. You know, if we don't have a guy that we can absolutely go to in the red zone, that's going to kind of fester up, and I think you've seen that a little bit.
And what I hear by lack of execution was there's some concerns about blocking about people being on time for their assignments, and people hitting the hole that they're supposed to. Execution is extremely important, even more so in the red zone, because the defense has less room, which benefits them.
I feel like that's just a running back saying it's my O-line's fault.
Listen, look, one thing I'll say is what it sounded like to me more than anything else was he's challenging the offensive line to be dominant down in the red zone.
They're doubling down on the O-line.
That's how you got to finish. You have to finish drives by the offensive line dominate. Listen, I say it all the time. When you get to, 3rd and short, 4th and short, red zone, short field, you have to just look at a guy across from you and say, I'm going to beat you on this snap, and you're not going to do anything about it. That, to me, is about challenging an offensive line to win in that spot on the field to put points on the board.
Right, can I jump in on this really quickly? Because somebody's got to be the player's advocate over here.
Yes.
So here's my thinking. Your team has been terrific from 20 to 20. You don't just forget how to execute. Sure, you're going to have some mishaps. You're going to have some plays. So it is a little bit on the coaching to say, we just went from 20 to 20. The defense has given us some different looks. We need to figure it out. So I do think it's partially execution, but the coaches can do a better job, I think, of calling plays or scheming things up once you get to the red area.
This is reason alone for you to tune into the post-game show, because we're going to continue this conversation.
I'm going to prove
after
you
the
all
evidence
right.
we get from this game right here. He's going to prove us right. All right. I like that exactly. All right, let's move now to our Freedom Heating and Air impact players. You mentioned them earlier. Kadarius Callaway, a former 4-star player, played at ODU, if you remember his name from there, and finally got his first start, hard to believe, last week, and he did a lot with it.
Yeah, former 4-star. He enrolled at Alabama, as in like the Crimson Tide. Everyone knows that school.
Oh, is that their name?
Yeah, I think so. But no, he's absolutely explosive. I think he struggled due to some inefficiencies on the offensive line this year. But if you get this guy in space, good luck. Liberty struggled with some missed tackles this year, so he could explode tonight.
The offensive coordinator for New Mexico State has to be creative to get this guy the ball in space. 2 years ago, he averaged 7.1 yards per play. That's incredible.
All right, Nathan Mitchell now. This guy, a safety. He's dynamic. He can get into the backfield in a hurry. I like him because he's violent. I like a little violence with my safety.
You hit the nail on the head for me. I love violence in that back end. I want people that'll go lay some shoulder pad on somebody, but then attack the football. When the ball's in the air, it's not, well, let me go see what I can. No, it's the football is mine, and Mitchell has that mentality, physical, and oh, by the way, if he gets the ball in his hands, as we saw with a 71-yard interception return for touchdown, he is a playmaker. Look at him go get it. Turns into an offensive player. Go get it, young fella.
He's got a little show to his game, too. Obviously, what a catch that was. I don't know how that ball stayed in the air and didn't touch the ground. Showed off some great hands, and then there it is. He's just giving the people what they want. A little celebration with the hat. Pat, I feel like we should have gotten you one of those for this game. All right,
mustache.
Jamari Person, as we turn now to the Flames, 5 receptions against UTEP. You want to see the ball get in this guy's hands more.
Yeah, you really do. Yeah, I've been high on him all year, and last week was the first time I felt like they made a concerted effort to get the ball in his hands. Targeted 5 times, had 5 catches, had a couple big third down plays. He's a guy that I think can be Mr. Reliable for Vasco.
What I have a problem with is that last thing there was longest catch, only 20 yards. Get him more opportunities down the field. And then Jones in this defense, I like Jones at all 3 levels, what he can do in the back end and getting up near the line of scrimmage. Really nice player for this defense. They got to keep him involved.
Yeah, he's on the Conference USA preseason player watch list. He's a really good player, 35 solo tackles already this year. I love it when defensive backs are violent like you talked about before. This is definitely him. He will get his head dirty.
And he's been here his whole career. That's wild to me. I don't even know what to make of that.
Who does that?
Is that a thing?
Yeah,
loyalty. Who knows?
Wow.
Well, hey there, friends. Every sack is a sack to give back this season. Food Lion Feeds will donate 1,000 meals to a neighbor in need for each Liberty sack this season. Oh, this guy, he's living life the right way. Look at the head nod going on salad.
Oh, a little cilantro. That's cilantro.
Oh, okay.
Cilantro,
I guess
baby.
you throw that on meat, right? Is that what you're supposed to do with it? That green stuff? All right, hey, Flames with 8 sacks on the year, 49 yards lost. We'll be back in just a second.
Welcome to Champion Connect, Liberty University's exclusive network for alumni, residential students, and online students. Whether you're on campus or across the globe, this is your space to connect, give back, and grow professionally. Stay in touch with the Liberty community. See what friends are up to and reconnect with old classmates. Meet new people who share your values and celebrate your favorite Liberty moments. Looking for mentorship? Champion Connect makes it easy to find mentors in your field of study. Schedule video calls or send messages on the app. And when the time is right, you too can become a mentor for others. Want to grow professionally? Expand your network, explore job opportunities, and take real steps towards your career goals, all within the Trusted Liberty community. Champion Connect keeps you connected anytime and anywhere. To get started, visit championconnect.liberty.edu. Use Safari on iPhone or any browser on Android and add it right to your home screen. Get connected today.
It's kind of amazing, like, walking into the sea of students that are Christ-centered. They're, trying to strive to, be who God has created them to be, and to be able to offer anything is just awesome. The world that we live in, there's so many things that characterize greatness: what you do, how much you have, how many people follow you, and that's what determines greatness. But ultimately, true greatness is found in living a life that's submitted to Christ and being who He's called you to be. So if you're doing that, if you're striving for that in any way, shape, or form, then you are great and you're a champion for Christ.
Get ready for a great week of soccer in Lynchburg. From November 2nd through the 7th, Liberty hosts the 2025 Conference USA Women's Soccer Championship. The league's top teams face off in a week of high-stake matches, all fighting for the conference crown and a shot at the NCAA tournament.
Shot and scores!
Shoot, scores! High stakes, big moments, and it all comes down to this. Catch the action in Lynchburg or follow along at conferenceusa.com.
Welcome back to Lynchburg. Aggies and Flames coming up at 7 p.m. on the CBS Sports Network. And we are starting to wind down here on Flame Central Game Day, where we begin to talk about keys to the matchup. We're going to start with Pat. Pat, I don't know. I guess I didn't even think about the mustache leading into you doing New Mexico State's keys, but it is fitting.
Is that your key, the mustache?
Absolutely. There's a lot of power in that thing.
You know how you get some teams that, like, everybody dyes their hair blonde from the beginning of the season? Every player on that team should have the stash.
Well, how about our team should have the stash?
Right.
I mean, we've got a little support
We've got
here,
facial hair, yeah.
But you guys, what are we thinking?
Quick story. I did the stash one time, and I aired it for a basketball game where I was the sideline reporter, and I got a text message to the producer of that game saying, "What on earth was he thinking?" And so I'll just leave it at that. It's never going to be seen again.
Well, I walked downstairs.
I hope Pat has a sponsorship or something with a mustache. You're making some money off of that.
You know who doesn't sponsor it is my wife. I walked down the stairs and she was like, "Why? Again?
Yeah.
We're doing this again?"
Yeah. It's not even November yet.
I know.
Yes.
It might stick around.
Look at that.
There we go.
Look at our crew. Our crew is so good. Look
You
at
guys
that.
rock.
Look at how well manicured it is. Yeah.
You get that thing growing longer, I'll get you the wax so you can twist at the end.
Say no. My wife will hate you, but say no
Say
more.
no more.
Say no more.
All right, let's get to our keys.
All right. I mean, this for New Mexico State, it's important. You got to shut down the run. We know that this Liberty team loves to run the football, but this year, in the 2 losses that New Mexico State has, they've allowed an average of 242 yards on the ground. In their 3 wins, they've allowed 93 yards. So when they're able to stop the run, good things happen. So that's number 1 for them. Number 2, get your playmakers in space. We talked about Fife. We talked about these guys that can stretch the field. Liberty has struggled to tackle this year. If you can get your guys in space and make them tackle, you could have some explosives tonight. And then lastly, they've got to maintain this red zone dominance. They've been really good this year, top 10 in the country in allowing or not allowing points into the red zone. So I think if they can keep that up and force Liberty to kick every time that they make it down there, they could maybe walk out of here with a win tonight.
All right, Reggie, give it to us for the Flames.
Yeah, I think first of all, if you're Liberty, you got to spread the love on offense. You got to get all of these weapons involved, give them opportunities to touch the football, and also figure out how this New Mexico State defense is trying to handle this offense. So I think that's first and foremost. And then defensively, party in the backfield. It has to be a party in the backfield. This defensive front has to get to Fife, make him uncomfortable on a consistent basis. This is a New Mexico State offense that's given up 15 sacks this year. Fife's touchdown to interception ratio, not great. I think 6-4. And when he starts to get hit and beat up a little bit, he starts throwing the ball up, and you can create some mistakes that way. And then last but not least for this Liberty football team, finish. There's something like -33 in terms of scoring in the 4th quarter. They're not finishing drives in the red zone, as we mentioned earlier. They have to find a way to finish drives, finish quarters, and then finish the football game if they want to walk out of here with a win tonight.
All right, you always need them. Sometimes you don't know where to find them. It's your spare keys, and that's why we have DJ Jordan here. DJ, break us through one key for each team that you think will be imperative.
That's right. So for Liberty, I'm going to go back to the big boys, the buffet guys, the big uglies down front. We need to have execution in the red zone, and I am going to put the pressure on the offensive line because there have been some missed blocks. There have been some opportunities opportunities where they didn't stay on their block to the next level. So you have to have that execution from the big boys up front. So I'm calling out Aaron Fenimore, Harrison Hayes, all of these offensive linemen. Today, you gotta make it happen in the red zone. For New Mexico State, I would say the offensive coordinator. I'm going to put pressure on the offensive coordinator, Luke Schlussner, who is a former wide receiver from North Dakota. That's where he played, so he's a soft guy, and he doesn't like giving the running back.
I don't know. You're North Dakota
love.
that cold. I don't know if you can call it soft.
Well, he doesn't like giving the ball to the running back. You've got a horse in the back with Callaway. Today, you've got to figure out a way to get him the rock. And that's going to be important. Obviously, we've talked about it at length. The worst running team in the entire NCAA. You have to be more balanced today to have a chance to win.
All right, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Again, I'm looking forward just to watching it with you guys, and then we'll be right back here to break everything down in the post-game stream. Make sure you join us right after the game ends. We'll be live on Facebook and other platforms. We'll be back with you, CBS Sports Network. Tune in at 7 p.m.